Big cats need to be better protected in South Africa. That's the view of 94% of respondents in a recent survey by animal welfare organization Four Paws. South Africa is the biggest trader of live big cats in the world, with some 12,000 lions bred for export. Endangered non-native tigers are also being farmed and traded here. The cats are used for canned hunting, luxury items and traditional medicine. The survey comes as a deadline for the public comment on two pieces of crucial conservation legislation has ended. Let's discuss the situation now with Sarah Locke from Four Paws. Sarah, good afternoon. Welcome to today. Thank you very much for your time here this afternoon on eNCA. When did you do the survey and how many people were involved, and was it across the country?
Yeah, sure. So thanks very much for having me on. Yeah, we undertook this survey with a partner, Ask Africa, towards the beginning of this year, around May, June time. And yeah, it was 1,000 respondents across South Africa that actually reflected the South African population of aged 18 and over, basically.
Yeah, before you tell us what you found, what the survey revealed, why did you do the survey now?
So we did this survey now because, as you quite rightly mentioned, we've got these two really important pieces of legislation that are being debated or papers that are basically open for public comment. So this is a really important time for wildlife in South Africa. We've got the draft game meat strategy that's just been delivered by the Department for Environment, and also the draft white paper on the conservation and sustainable use of South Africa's biodiversity, both of which are really important in their different ways. So the white paper is quite a progressive, it's quite a progressive paper. We're really impressed with some of the key recommendations within that. For example, like the acknowledgement of intrinsic value of biodiversity, things that are really important, animal sentience, the importance of animal welfare for One Health. So that is the health of us as people, the species that we share this planet with, and also the health of, the planet itself. So this is a really important transition, we hope, or something that signals a transition for the better for wildlife in South Africa. So we thought, as to show support for this, well, we didn't know at the time because, obviously it was dependent on the results, but the results have shown that actually the South African population largely is really supportive of that.
Okay, we'll unpack that shortly. So you've got the legislation, the upcoming one, in terms of banning captive lion breeding industry, but we also understand that included in that activity, you've got non-native big cat species like tigers. Then you've got the biodiversity legislation, which you see as being progressive, and you are impressed with some of the things. Now, in terms of this survey, in terms of lion breeding industry, the captive lion breeding industry, for example, what did you find in your survey? What are the key takeouts that stand out for you?
So, as you earlier mentioned, over 90% of the respondents that we interviewed agree that big cats should be better protected by South African laws and regulations. 71% agree that the government should include non-native big cat species within the phase out of the captive lion breeding industry. So that would include big cats like tigers that we know are bred alongside lions in the very same facilities, exported for the very same purposes. So that's something that the government actually hasn't included within its white paper or its previous commitment announcements, essentially, to end the captive lion breeding industry. So that's still something that's outstanding that we are still pushing for. And we really urge, obviously, the Department for Environment to take that seriously. 66% of South Africans do not agree that big cat farming, do not support, big cat farming for commercial purposes in South Africa. So these are really important things, and it just really shows the support for the phase out of the industry. And actually that people are, as internationally, they are much more focused by, or are much more likely to want to visit ethical wildlife viewing practices.
Yeah, many of us, many people are not really aware about this industry, what is happening there, and sometimes we interact with these animals when we visit certain places. We're not aware of everything. What is Four Paws doing? And because I believe you know that you've got a role to play in terms of driving awareness, and you would need to partner with like-minded organizations, private companies, and the public sector.
Yeah, you're quite right. So it's quite a multifaceted approach. And actually, that was something that we learned from our survey quite clearly, is that kind of like lack of awareness, the understanding that, you know, interacting with a big cat is actually fueling this trade and just the industry in general. So those were kind of the key things. And I think from that survey, it's obviously something that we've been campaigning on for a number of years now, and we will continue to do so.
Okay.
Yeah,
sorry, Sarah,
what we've really
sorry to cut in. We've just run out of time. We're heading to 4 o'clock, but I guess we've covered most of the bases. We will touch base with you to find out how this legislation process is going and your awareness campaign. Thanks for your time. That's Sarah Locke. She's the head of programs at Four Paws. The latest stories, top stories coming up at 4 o'clock, but